Welcome to the Wolves of Langston, Chapter 1. My name's Landon, you're watching RPG ABC. I've got the lights dimmed for a spooky atmosphere. Actually, lights are just turned off. But, yeah, we are playing the first chapter of the Wolves of Langston. I'm super excited to get into it. This is a D&D 5e solo adventure that you can play through. You just get yourself a level 1 character. I am playing a variant human rogue, level 1, named Alexander Yaz. And so, to give you a little bit of insight on him, I took the skilled feat just to give me some extra proficiencies. This guy was supposed to be a soul knife, I believe it's called, rogue, and I bumped them back down to level 1 to do this adventure. And so I've got just extra proficiencies, really. That's about it. But Alexander is a gambler. He's usually just playing cards at the local tavern and taking the locals for any extra cash that they decide to throw down for the game. And then he skips town before the real trouble begins for him, as people will go into debt too much with him and expect to be able to take it back by force. He's fair in a fight, or not fair, but he's good in a fight, but not the best, so he likes to skip town before that. So, let's go ahead, and I'm using D&D Beyond. I was going to do the same thing I'm doing for the Dragon Staff of Maladoria, print out a character sheet, but then I thought D&D character sheets have a lot of small writing on them. I don't know if my camera would pick it up, so I just decided to use D&D Beyond, as even the Wolves of Langston book suggests. So that's what I'm doing, and go ahead and let me know down in the comments if you think there's a better way I could do this, because I'd love to know. But let's go ahead and get into Chapter 1. The adventure begins. After a long day on the road, you crest a hill and see the lights of a town. According to maps and helpful locals you've consulted, this must be Langston. Though the last blush of sunlight still colors the sky to the west, lamplight is already visible at the gate and in the streets. In the dim twilight, you can clearly see that the dirt road you've been traveling transitions to cobblestone, and a simple stone wall rings the town. Even with this distance, you can see the timber-framed walls of the buildings in town are well maintained with fresh whitewash that glow golden with the lamplight. It's a beautiful little town, a prosperous trading hub nestled among the fertile farmland and old-growth forest you've spent the last few days traversing. The stars are just starting to emerge as the lone howl of a wolf splits the silence off somewhere in the woods. A chorus of responding howls take up the call, some uncomfortably close, and getting closer. You pick up your pace and put more distance between you and the wilderness in the hope of a soft bed, a hot meal, and some work for an enterprising adventure. A town as prosperous as Langston looks like a place to do good, earn coin, and achieve glory. Maybe all three at once? So long as you aren't eaten by wolves between here and there. So we need to roll a perception check, and then, alright, so, perception, that is a skill. Ooh, nope, there it is, +2. For a 5 total. Okay. If you get less than 10, go to 11. Oh, and then the things even link. That's beautiful. I love it. Oh man, this is so awesome. You continue down the road, a growing sense of dread in the pit of your stomach. Looking around you, you see nothing in the trees or undergrowth on either side of the road, even though you feel like you should. You stop walking, pausing to listen to the dark woods around you. Without the sound of your footsteps, you can now hear a low rumbling growl and excited panting coming from around you, all around you. A large but scruffy wolf pads into the road in front of you, moonlight shining as its gray in its gray fur. Half a dozen more of the beasts step up into view, sizing you up. You are surrounded by a pack of hungry wolves. Your odds aren't good, but at least you can go down fighting. Oof. You square up to defend yourself as the pack of hungry wolves start to circle, looking for an opening to attack. There are at least 10 of them, and something tells you more are waiting in the darkness of the tree. It looks like an early end to your adventuring career, but you're determined not to give up without a fight. You're just about to unleash your attack and go down fighting when you hear a bellow behind you on the road. You turn around to see a bald dwarf dressed in rough spun clothes and animal hides pointing at you from on top of a raise in the road, or maybe past you. Moonlight shines off the skin of his head. His face is lit by small balls of fire dancing in the air over his outstretched palms. "Oh, no you don't," he yells, as flames are flaring with his emotions. "Get back, you lot!" The wolves immediately tuck their tails between their legs and lay down their ears down flat. The apparent leader looks at you and whines. "Not a chance," the dwarf scoffs. "Go on now." The wolves slink quietly back into the woods, and you realize you are still poised to attack. The dwarf doesn't seem to notice as he approaches. He eyes you up and down. The silence between you stretches until it breaks with a massive sneeze. "Sorry, you all right?" he asks with a lopsided smile and a sniffle. Didn't have a chance to get a piece of you, did they? You let him know you're all in one piece and thank him for his intervention. Whew, I thought we were gonna have our first combat for a second. "Well then, lucky for you I was here," he says with a wide grin and a slap on the back hard enough to throw off your balance. He opens his mouth. Sorry. Yeah, that was weird for a second. He opens his mouth to speak again, but nothing comes out until he unleashes a sneeze that makes his beard bristle. You wait for him to regain his composure. "You must be hungry then. Go straight down this road and you'll reach the town of Langston. Find the Pickled Hen, and if anyone asks, tell him Roy Sunderhammer sent you." He stammered out a thank you despite the adrenaline. You stammer out a thank you despite the adrenaline coursing through you. "Think nothing of it. I'm on my way there myself. Funeral, you see, doing my druidic duty to the circle of life and all that." He guffs as he just told a joke. "But before I do that, I'm gonna have a bit of a chat with these naughty pups. They should know better." Before you have a chance to respond, the dwarf lopes off toward the woods with a surprisingly graceful gait, given his stocky build. Between the darkness and another night on the road, or a hot meal and a soft mattress, it's hardly even a decision. You head towards the lights of Langston. Your hopes for a meal and friendly conversation are dashed with what you find in the marketplace. More specifically, you're disappointed with what you don't find. It's empty, filled only with a mournful hush. Street vendors are closed, windows are shuttered, lamp lighters have still passed through to fill the square with warm pools of light, but everything feels muted under the weight of an oppressive sadness. You're looking around for anyone, with a solitary figure in white robes bustles out from a side street, nearly dropping a sheaf of papers. The robe's hood is down so you can see that it's a young human woman with light blonde hair. Her robes bear sunburst motifs along the neck and collar and a similar symbol made of gold hangs from her neck. This appears to be a sun cleric. Call out to the cleric or follow her down the empty streets? I think I would call out, just, kind of wanting... It's so empty here, I think it would make sense to call out to anyone else you see. And A, try to figure out what's going on, and B, just to have some company, because we were just, circled by some wolves, and the dwarf left us, so... Yeah, what was his name? Roy Sunderhammer, I believe. So, let's go to 27. Huh. Thought I felt the table vibrate. The cleric jolts and turns, and you see a moment of her fear as her hand reflexively snaps to her holy symbol. She looks either way down empty streets before breaking out in a wide, kind smile as she approaches. "Hello and welcome," she says, her voice high and bright. "Can I help you with something, traveler?" You ask her where she's going in such a hurry. "I am on my way to perform a young woman's last rites," she says, her kind smile still fixed to her lips. "Such a sad day." You ask if she's on her way to the Pickled Hen. I am, she says with growing uncertainty. "Did you know the deceased?" You say that you do not, but someone named Roy suggested you go to the Pickled Hen for lodging. "Ah, of course," she says with a sigh. A truly good dwarf, Roy. The funeral will be starting soon, and I must be on my way, but I can show you the way if you'd like." She walks beside you in silence, occasionally consulting the sheets in her hand and reading it to herself. After a few moments of awkwardly accompanying the young cleric, she shows you to the inn whose sign says it's the Pickled Inn. The cleric absent-mindedly, opens the door and steps into the tavern at the ground floor. Having clearly forgotten you're even there, she closes it behind her. Do I go into the tavern or look into the tavern window? We're gonna go in. Again, not wanting to be alone, because being surrounded by wolves, that is a scary situation. The tavern is nearly full to capacity of townspeople, milling about, speaking quietly to one another. The hum lacks the boisterous outbursts of laughter or shouts you normally associate with taverns this crowded, and the answer quickly becomes apparent why. At one end of the common room, there is a closed casket. On a table amidst what looks like hundreds of flower arrangements, a musician is strumming a lyre in a sad tune off in the corner. As you are looking around, an old woman is arguing with a huge half-orc woman with an impressive collection of battle scars and a suit tailored in typical nobleman's style. Seeing you, the man grimaces and sways over to you. He reeks of ale, and his spirits and his face sags in habitual sadness as his eyes glitter with both tears and an unexpected rage. Let's see, I've already done gruff. I've done my one-woman voice. You don't know. I don't know you, he slurs, stabbing a blunt finger into the air between you. Was it you? Did you do this? What else have you done? A few heads nearby turn as he throws his hands up into a fighting stance and starts blobbing unsteadily. The half-orc crosses her arms and watches the both of you carefully. You're at a funeral in a strange town, so violence is not an option. You can try to persuade them to leave you alone, or intimidate them into backing down. I'm going to persuade them. So it says go to 41, and I'm guessing that means we'll roll at 41. Right, you raise your open hand and assure the man calmly that there has been some kind of mistake. There's no need to fight, and certainly no need to ruin such a somber moment. We're going to roll charisma. We're going to roll persuasion. Yeah, persuasion. There it is. +5. Oh, there we go. 8 + 5, 13. If you get 12 or more. Okay, we barely pass that one, but we do. The man calms and walks away, muttering about adventures being up to no good, but he picks up a cup of wine from a tray and busies himself with drinking that instead of fighting you. Gain inspiration. Hey, we've got inspiration. Is there a way on D&D Beyond to mark inspiration? There we go. As your would-be attacker walks off, you see that the half-orc who was speaking to him is staring at you. She approaches you. The female half-orc is in the tailored suit, looks at you, eyes scanning up and down. I'm Tanya Anathram, Mayor of Langston, she says with a nod, her common heavily accented with a gruttal orcish twang. Man, I can't do voices. I've got like 3, and I think I just did them. This is gonna be rough, people. I'm sorry. I may have use of you. Please stay for the funeral. I will speak to you after. You try to reply, but she's already walking away as the ceremony begins. A middle-aged human couple gets up and introduces themselves as Mabeline's parents, though from the murmur of sympathy coming from the crowd, that seems well known. Thank you so much for coming out to say goodbye to our darling girl with us, the mother says. She was a ray of sunshine in our lives from the beginning, and we can see that she touched the lives of many of you as well. She was relentlessly kind, generous, and patient. We will miss her dearly. The father of the deceased clears his throat, his eyes glassy. We are so grateful for the people of Langston. You made our daughter's life a joy, and you're making her loss more bearable. But we will not be seeing you for some time. A murmur runs through the crowd, and he holds up his hands for quiet. Every brick and blade of grass in the town reminds us of what we have lost. Every time we see your kind faces, we will only see the torn and broken body of our treasured daughter. So we will leave and trust our capable mayor to bring the killer to justice. We'll keep our peace at home. We will keep our peace at home, where we feel the closest to our daughter's memories, but we pray you bring the killer to swift justice. As he speaks, heads in the crowd turn to the mayor, who just nods to the citizenry. When you turn your attention to the grieving parents, the father's cheeks are wet with tears, but his teeth are gritted in mute rage. Laying a gentle hand on her husband's arm, the deceased mother speaks up. But we are not the only ones to suffer a loss, she says in a cracking voice. We had Maybelline for her whole life. The love of her life was cheated out of the rest of it. Tomlin, darling, we'd love it if you could say a few words. The parents of the dead woman step aside, and her fiancé takes their place at the podium. The man identified as Thomas is dressed simply, and he clutches a bunch of flowers tightly in one hand. He takes a moment looking out over the crowd, visibly holding back tears. I thank you all so much for coming today. he says with a sigh. We are gathered to remember the beautiful, shining light that was my bride-to-be. Before growing to love her, I never thought I was the marrying kind. Now it seems more like fate than a choice. Does that mean the wolf pack is on the prowl? The man, whispers one man near you to a friend. Lock up your sisters and daughters. And wives, the friend replies with a snigger. Both are shushed by women who seem to be their wives, both women sharing embarrassed glances. Others nearby in the crowd look over at the pair of would-be comedians with glares and mouthful insults. My darling wife-to-be was a simple soul, he says. Her favorite flowers were daisies. She liked the color lavender. Anything made of silk was the height of sophistication. Despite Tomlin's grief, the two men are still whispering lewdly and sniggering. The women seated beside the would-be comedians glare at them and exchange exasperated looks with one another. Oblivious to what was happening in front of you, Tomlin closes his eyes to collect himself with a sigh before continuing. To put it simply, Maybelline's death has torn a hole in my life that cannot be filled, but I will try. Work will help, I'm sure, but giving back to all of you who have done so much for me, especially in these dark times, I can only try to repay your kindness. I truly love you all, and you are all welcome at my home at any time. The audience applauds respectfully and murmurs condolences. Right away, however, something seems odd about the situation. You may either use an investigation check or an insight check to determine what's piquing your interest. I would go insight, I think. So 46. People are behaving oddly, but you're not quite sure what is odd about them. So we will roll insight. Plus 2. 17, finally, a good roll. 19. If you get 10 or more, yep. Gain inspiration. Again. I am thinking I will be using the alternative rule to collect inspiration, so I'll just be keeping track of it down here on a piece of paper of how many I have. Right. Two. Though Tomlin's grief and sadness are almost certainly genuine, there's an element of relief, maybe even excitement from him. And a number of women attending the service whispered amongst each other with genuine, if fleeting, smiles, and the angry wives' shared embarrassment carried an undercurrent of something more focused, as if confirming their husband's joke with a shared hope that Tomlin really would turn his attention to the bored wives of Langston. Though there are layers of complexity here, you will have to investigate another time, as next speaker is replacing Tomlin, this one a familiar red-bearded dwarf. The dwarf dressed in hides and homespun cloth, while his hair and beard seem struggling to break free from the leather cords he's used to style them. He's clean now, but something in the dwarf's demeanor suggests this is his version of dressing up. Welcome, people of Langston, he says with a warm smile that makes his eyes sparkle. As sad as I am to see Maybelline return to the earth, I want to remind Langston to choose life. As you all know, I'm grateful my circle assigned me to Langston. There's a murmur of assent in the crowd and a few raised glasses. And you have all made it so easy for me. You've respected the forest and its inhabitants, and in return, I have been happy to act as both spiritual counsel and guiding hand of the forces of nature around us. I join you in grieving the loss of a wonderful member of this community, and I hope you will join me in welcoming her back into the circle of life. He mutters a spell as his hands begin to radiate a faint green glow. But he's interrupted by a sneezing fit, after which his beard and hair thicken and stand on end. He smooths his hair and regains his composure. "Excuse me," he says with a deep growl in his voice. He clears the throat and completes his spell, causing a splash of extraordinary bright wildflowers to bloom on the dais on which the casket rests. He nods in approval at his own work before turning to the crowd, raising a glass and smiling broadly. "To life." He drowns his drink along with others in the crowd, but you're more interested in the strange reaction the local druid had to the sneezing fit. You can try either an arcana or perception check to understand what you've seen. I think I'm gonna go arcana just to see what's going on here. I'm not sure if Alexander is actually that good with arcana, but I think that would give me more information than just a perception check, right? So I'm gonna go with that. So there's clearly something magical at work here. You think back to what you know about the arcane arts. Roll intelligence arcana. Oh, +0. Natural 20! Oh, beautiful. Oh, that was a cool animation. Okay. So, if you get a 10 or more, go to 31, which we did. Gain another inspiration. Holy cow. Alright. You remember that druids are able to transform into animals, which could explain the druid's moments of bushy hair and growling voice. It's odd that it would be an involuntary response, however. He had the uncontrolled change while sneezing, so a magical disease perhaps? The next speaker is approaching the front of the crowd, a smallish woman in a white robe embroiled with sun motifs that you recognize from earlier. Though you met her in the streets, the young sun cleric seems like a different person behind the podium. She speaks clearer and stands up straighter. She seems possessed of confidence, possessed of confidence you didn't get from the same sweet but a little scattered young woman you met on your way to the Pickled Hen. Most of you from town know me, but I see some unfamiliar faces. I am Solane, a member of the Radiant Order and custodian, I think I went a little bit higher with her, and custodian of Eastern Temple. May the light guide you. Several people reflexively respond with, and you. They then make a salutation of the right hand touching the heart and then moving it in an arc overhead, reminding you of a sun rising and setting overhead. Given the cleric's youth, it's obvious her order has a long history in this town. Though we are in the dark shadows cast by our loss, she continues, the sun will shine forever on Maybelline, as her presence was a bright shining light to us all. To all of us. I did not know Maybelline well in life, but it is clear that she has touched the lives of everyone here in this room. She looks directly at Tomlin and smiles kindly. And my heart goes out to you, especially Tomlin. Know that my door is always open to you. And she leads the service in a hymn. She introduces as coming from the Ratahaka and of funeral rites. It seems no one in the audience knows it, but she sings anyway in a high, sweet voice, and the crowd labors to continue to keep up with her. As we guard the light with you and drive the shadows away, the radiant sword of your heart evils of darkness slay. Though you're gone from our sight, in our heart of hearts remain. Rest well in the light of the sun, and the shield of our faith sustain. Though the cleric appears to be earnest and sincere, the difference between the woman you met outside and the one standing before you now is stark. You ought to either roll a religion check or an insight check. I'm gonna go insight with this. I feel like I'm more interested to make sure this is the right person. 43. The cleric's role as a spiritual leader clashes with the sharing demeanor she displays earlier, so you consider what may actually be motivating her. Roll a wisdom insight. Another natural 20? Oh man. That's pretty crazy. Alright. So yeah, we definitely passed that, so go to 45. Selene seems distracted as she delivers her prayers. Her gaze drifts towards Tomlin as she speaks, often lingering longer than on any of the others in the crowd. And at least once, when she addresses him directly, the handsome herbalist's face registers warmth, familiarity, and something else you can't quite figure out in that fleeting moment. There is a lot more to unpack in how she's speaking and acting, especially as it relates to the aggrieved fiancé, but it's only the slightest hint of what she might be going through beneath the veneer of a spiritual leader. The mayor looms behind Selene for a moment before the cleric notices and retreats from the front of the crowd. Okay. As Selene recedes into the background, the half-orc mayor stands rigid with her hands clasped behind her back. She cuts a powerful figure with her broad shoulders and battle scars, but she maintains an air of sophistication with a well-made suit. In the noble style, an enormous mastiff pads up to her side and besides her, remaining equally still, though her heritage stands out to you in the mostly human town of Langston. No one else seems to notice. "Sip, Buttercup," she says with the dog in a heavy accent. The mastiff immediately sets itself at her side. The mayor returns her attention to the crowd of attendees. Tanya Anathram was a soldier before she was your mayor. She begins, laying a hand over her heart. Langston's welcomed me, gave me a place to heal after the Battle of Three Rivers. I fought to defend the people from a barbarian horde, and I will protect the people of Langston. I'm gonna have to write this down that the mayor has a southern accent. And maybe I should be practicing a southern accent more. She looks out into the crowd, moving her eyes as the rest of her remains perfectly still. Her huge dog could be a statue for all it moves. There is a killer out there in the darkness, she says, and her eyes lock on yours. We do not know what it is, but it took one of the citizens under my protection. We will find whatever took this life and end the threat. This is my promise to you. A ripple of soft applause and angry muttering sweeps through the crowd. The dog's head tracks both sounds for a moment before glancing at the mayor, returning to its vigil. She turns to address the family of the deceased. I'm so sorry for your loss, she says, and then steps away from the casket and starts making her way through the crowd towards you. As she makes her way to where you're standing, you can make either a history check or an animal handling check. We're going to go animal handling, definitely. We love dogs. And that's probably just more me coming up. Mayor Anthrum's dog is incredibly impressive in its training. So let's go ahead and roll animal handling. A 12. All right. If you get 10 or more, so it's good enough. Okay. 22. The Mastiff, currently on the mayor's heels, is immaculately trained as a military attack hound. In other words, the mayor's dog is a trained killer. It's remarkably well trained, but in all likelihood, it has killed before. Whether or not it will kill again will depend on whether or not it needs to, or is commanded to. You spare the beast a glance as the mayor approaches you. You are an adventurer, yes? She says, with the answer in the affirmative. When blah blah blah. She says to you. When you answer in the affirmative, she continues. Then I suppose you will do for now. Between her rumbling orcish accent and deadpan delivery, it's impossible to tell that she actually thinks, what she actually thinks about you. But she does make a sweeping gesture towards the bar, then starts off. The stern woman is obviously not one for pleasantries. As you follow behind her, she stops to speak to a prone, balding man you can only assume is the innkeeper. And the town will pay for the investigator's room and board. This is acceptable? The innkeeper cuts you a glance and nods. Their business concluded, Mayor Anthrum returns to you with a key to your room. You ask why she would hire you. I know your type. Adventurer, mercenary, hero for hire. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. The people are scared and I need someone, so I'm hiring you. And since you're an outsider, if you fail, it will not reflect badly on this town. You start to think, but she cuts you off. I do not yet know you, she says, as she holds up a hand, and I may not get time to do so if this killer gets you next. You're here for the people and for me. As long as you are investigating this young woman's murder, we will pay for your stay. You will come to the town hall tomorrow, as tonight is not the time to discuss the details of the case. Sleep well. She nods once, though it's unclear whether that's a farewell or an agreement of some kind, then returns to her duties, reassuring the funeral goers. You remain standing, dumbfounded for a moment, as a figure breaks away from the crowd and moves towards you. It's Tomlin, the village herbalist and fiancé to the deceased. What voice was he? I think he was just like mine, but a little off. Hello, he says, his eyes almost entrancing up so close. I haven't met you yet. How did you know Maybelline? The southern thing is now getting into every voice. You reply that you just arrived in town today, but that the mayor has requested your help with the investigation. He looks over and nods he looks you over and nods as if past some sort of assessment. Welcome then. Thank you so very much for doing this for us. Please come to my home whenever you need. I need to know what happened to my Maybelline. You bid the grieving man a good night, and he gives you a smile that is dazzling despite its sadness. He moves on to speak to other guests, and you make your way to your room. You get the benefits of a long rest. Cool. Long rest. Take long rest. Confirm. You've completed a long rest. Cool. Nice and easy. You wake up in a soft bed to a hot breakfast cooling outside your door. This is much better living than camping by the road, so it's probably time to meet your benefactor. The inn's common room is a bustle of activity as quiet town people load flowers from the funeral into a wagon in front of the inn. The body of the deceased is already gone. After weaving your way through the workers, you find yourself outside where passerby are deliberately ignoring the wagon full of blossoms. With the help of a few locals on the streets, you make your way to the town hall. The town hall is a multi-story building, but not much larger than the surrounding structures. It isn't made of the same timber walls as the rest of the town, and is instead a much sturdier stone structure, so it likely predates the town's growth. The door stands open and an aide greets you when you arrive. He shows you to the mayor in a large but simply appointed office in the back of the building. The room is dominated by a large dark-stained wood desk where Mayor Antrim is working with quill and inkpot. There's also an unlit hearth on one wall and a couple of orderly bookshelves. There are no personal effects that you can see. A cushion and a bowl of water are set up next to the desk. The mayor's mastiff lounging there, watching you intently as you enter. He is such a good boy. You greet the mayor or you pet the dog first. Oof, that's a tough decision. Ah, man, I think my legs fell asleep. Give me a second. Pet the dog or greet the mayor. I want to pet the dog. Pet the dog. The dog growls, moving its considerably cheeks out of the way to bare its teeth. The mayor recommends that if you like your hand attached, you would be wise to remove it from her dog's reach. You believe her and the dog, so you pull your hand back intact. Better late than never, you greet the mayor. The hymn was You politely greet the mayor, and the dog lays its massive head back down on its paws. It continues to watch you closely, however. I am grateful for your service, she says. You assume she is being genuine, but it's impossible to tell for sure with her stony delivery. She outlines a problem she's having: a gruesome murder about a week ago. The town militia is fine against bandits or sheep rustlers, but this requires something different. The poor girl was mangled as if by a wild beast, but she was found within town. Besides, Roy keeps the woods free of monsters and supernatural hazards. Wait, when did she start talking? And besides, she says, you're an outsider and therefore expendable. It's the mayor's role to protect the town, and not every drifter that wanders in. The town will pay 320 gold pieces to eliminate the threat. That fee is not negotiable, and Mayor Antrim gives you the impression it would be bad for your health to try. I guess we're gonna accept that. Just feels like I missed like a paragraph, you know? Alright, so I'm going to accept. 48. Excellent, Mayor Antrim says in a gravely tone. Gravely, so excellent. Excellent. You can only assume means she's pleased. Let us begin. Please speak to Maybelline's fiancé. He is a herbalist who lives on the western edge of town, where he tends to his garden and makes medicines for the townsfolk. You thank the mayor and prepare to leave, but she holds up a hand. I have also made an arrangement with our general store. You may go to resupply anytime you may need to do so. It does not have as many goods as a big city, but will likely have whatever you need. Much at a discount, and there's an advance to make whatever purchases you may need. Add 20 gold to your inventory. Ooh, alright, so let's jump to inventory. Let's find our gold. Here we go. We'll start with 15, not bad. And we're gonna add 20. There we go. Nice. This is my first time using D&D Beyond too. You thank the mayor for her kind gesture, and she grunts in response before returning to the paperwork on the table. Go see Tomlin and the town's herbalist, and go see Tomlin, the town's herbalist, and Maybelline's fiance. The general store. Anytime you're within the town of Langston, you may visit the store. To visit the store, make note of your starting selection and turn to the back of the book to the section labeled General Store. There you will follow prompts to make transactions. Return to the section you started from when you are done. Okay, so just hold your place in the book, basically. But let's go see what they need. This morning, Langston seems to be back to normal. Townspeople bustle about their daily lives of working, shopping, eating, and gossiping. You guess there are around 1,000 people in Langston, but you see very few people idle. Tradespeople ply their tools, ply their trades, smithing, weaving, building furniture, or baking bread. But laughter is just a little too spaced out. The sounds of hammers and hoofbeats seem just a little too loud. The air is charged with fear and grief. Even in the light of day, you pass the wagon laden with flowers from the funeral once again, looking forlorn along the street. So you find yourself in a strange town with a substantial payday on the other end of a murder. Oh, this was chapter 2. Whoopsie daisy. I'm going to reread that when I do chapter 2, but we are done with chapter 1, and that's it for this month. Planning on Wolves of Langston to be a monthly series that I'm doing. We'll see though. Maybe it will not be monthly. Maybe I'll do more. I don't know yet. So just go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out when I do another session of the Wolves of Langston. I'm really enjoying this so far. I hope you guys are too, and I hope my accents don't offend anyone. Of course, be sure to check out the Discord as well, where we can talk about the Wolves of Langston, see how the investigation is going. We can all chat our different ideas and everything. Could be a lot of fun. And or we could just play a tabletop role-playing game together. Maybe once I'm done playing through this, I'll run it for people. They do have like a version to run it, which I think I have. I'll have to check. But also, be sure to check in the description for a link and a discount code to get Wolves of Langston for $5 off. I reached out to Obvious Mimic, the creators of this content, and asked them if I could play it on my channel, and they said, yeah, not a problem. In fact, here's a link and a discount code for $5 off. So go ahead, get yourself a copy. We can play it along together, or you can play it just by yourself and call me a fool when, in this investigation, I'm like, you know what? It's probably this person. Because right now, all eyes are on Tomlin, but also on the Sun Cleric, right? She was kind of a little too friendly with Tomlin, in my opinion. So, yeah, go ahead, do that. And of course, until next time, keep rolling dice.